The call came in just after midnight. Another routine maintenance check on a remote oil field. But this one felt different from the start. The dispatcher's voice was strained, mentioning something about strange reports from the area and unusual animal sightings, equipment malfunctioning in bizarre ways. My partner, Dave, just laughed it off. He was a seasoned veteran of the oil fields, a man who believed in sweat, steel, and nothing else. I was younger, newer to the job, and maybe a little more open to the unexplained. The drive out was long and silent, the darkness of the West Texas plains swallowing our headlights. When we finally arrived, the silence was the first thing that hit me. It wasn't a peaceful quiet. It was heavy, watchful. The massive pump jacks stood like skeletal giants against the starry sky, but their usual rhythmic groaning was gone. They were all dead still. We split up to cover more ground. Dave took the northern sector, and I started my checks on the southern pumps. The air was cold, but it was a dry, unnatural chill that seemed to seep right into my bones. As I approached the third pump jack, my flashlight beam caught something on the metal ladder. It looked like deep gouges, almost like something with enormous claws had tried to climb it. I ran my fingers over the marks. They were fresh. That's when I heard it, a faint sound, carried on the wind. It was a soft, rhythmic tapping. I froze, trying to place the direction. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I radioed Dave. "Dave, you hearing anything weird over there?" His reply was staticky, but I could make out his usual gruff tone. "Just the wind. Kid, get back to work." But it wasn't the wind. The tapping grew louder, more distinct. It sounded like fingernails on steel. I swept my flashlight across the dark expanse of the field, my heart starting to hammer against my ribs. Nothing. Just the silent, looming machinery. I tried to focus on my checklist, my hands fumbling with the gauges. But the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. I felt eyes on me from the darkness, a primal, predatory gaze that made the hair on my arms stand up. I called Dave again, my voice trembling slightly this time. "Dave, seriously, there's something out here. I'm hearing things." Silence, then a burst of static. ... "Behind you." The radio cut out. A cold dread washed over me. I whipped around, my light cutting a frantic arc through the night. Nothing. Just empty, dusty ground. My blood ran cold. Was he messing with me? Dave wasn't the type for jokes, especially not on the job. Dave, come in." "That's not funny," only static answered. Panic began to set in. I abandoned my checks and started running towards the northern sector, calling his name. The tapping sound started again, closer this time, faster. It was keeping pace with me. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, my boots crunching on the gravel path. Up ahead, I saw the beam of a flashlight on the ground, pointing towards a large storage tank. It was Dave's. As I got closer, I saw his toolkit lying scattered beside it, but there was no sign of him. I grabbed his flashlight and called his name again, my voice cracking. The only reply was an echo in that relentless tapping sound, which now seemed to be coming from on top of the storage tank. I slowly raised my light, my hand shaking so badly I could barely hold it steady. And that's when I saw it. Perched on the edge of the tank, silhouetted against the moon, was a figure. It was gaunt, unnaturally long-limbed, and crouched like an animal ready to pounce. It wasn't human. Its head turned, and its eyes glowed with a faint, predatory light, like a coyote's, but filled with a terrifying intelligence. It was watching me. The thing slowly, deliberately, raised a long, bony hand and tapped a single finger against the metal tank. Tap, 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 tap. Then it spoke, and the voice that came out of it was a perfect imitation of Dave's. "Just the wind, kid." My mind screamed. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The creature tilted its head, a grotesque parody of curiosity, and spoke again, this time mimicking the dispatcher's strained voice from the phone call. Unusual animal sightings. It was replaying everything. The thing unfolded itself from its crouch, standing to a height that was impossibly tall. Its joints cracked and popped with an unnatural sound as it straightened, its form shifting and elongating in the dim light. It took a step towards the edge of the tank, its movements jerky and wrong, like a puppet being controlled by an unseen hand. It was toying with me, savoring my fear. I finally broke free from my paralysis. I turned and ran, not back to the truck, but towards the only place I could think of, the small, reinforced control shed in the center of the field. I could hear it drop from the tank with a heavy thud, and then the sound of its footsteps behind me. They weren't human footsteps. They were heavy, fast, and had a strange, dragging quality. I risked a glance over my shoulder. The thing was running on all fours, its body contorted into a nightmarish, canine form, closing the distance with terrifying speed. I've never run so fast in my life. The shed seemed a mile away. The creature was getting closer. I could hear its breathing now, a ragged, guttural sound that was filled with hunger. I threw myself against the steel door of the shed, fumbling with the handle. ETH was locked. My heart sank. I was trapped. I braced myself for the impact, for the claws I knew were about to tear into me. Then I remembered the emergency keypad. My fingers, slick with sweat, flew over the numbers. Praying I remembered the code. The lock clicked open just as the creature slammed into the door behind me. I scrambled inside, throwing my whole weight against the door to shut it. The thing on the other side threw itself against the steel again and again, the impacts shaking the entire small building. A high-pitched shriek of pure rage and frustration echoed from outside, a sound that will haunt my nightmares forever. Then, the pounding stopped. Silence returned, just as heavy and watchful as before, but I knew it was still out there, waiting. Through the small, reinforced window, I could see it pacing back and forth, its form constantly shifting, melting from a wolf-like shape to something vaguely human and back again. And then it started talking. It used Dave's voice, begging me to open the door, telling me he was hurt. It used my mother's voice, crying, asking why I wouldn't help her. It cycled through voices it had no way of knowing, voices from my past, twisting my memories into weapons against me. I huddled in the corner, covering my ears, trying to block out the psychological torment. I stayed in that shed until the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon. As the sun came up, the creature let out one last, frustrated scream and melted back into the shadows of the plains. When the recovery team found me, they found Dave's truck, his tools, but not him. They dismissed my story as a stress-induced hallucination. But I know what I saw. I quit my job that day. I left West Texas and never looked back. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind blows just right, I can almost hear a faint tapping sound, and I know that thing is still out there, in the vast, dark emptiness of the oil fields, waiting. It can mimic any voice, any sound, but the one thing it can't fake is the soulless hunger in its eyes. So if you're ever out in the middle of nowhere and you hear a familiar voice call your name from the darkness, don't answer. Just run. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to follow 4 more tailies from the shadows. Stay safe. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We've got some incredible stories lined up for you today that I seriously can't wait to share. But before we dive into all that, I'm super curious about something. Where in the world are you watching this from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And just for fun, let me know what time it is for you. It's always so amazing to see how our community spans across so many different time zones. It really feels like we're all connected, no matter where we are. All right, let's get into it. My name is Travis, and what happened to my wife and me on the western slope of Colorado still keeps me awake at night. We were driving back home late, around 2 a.m., after visiting her family in Grand Junction. The road was a lonely stretch of highway, cutting through miles of dark, empty desert. The moon was bright, casting long, eerie shadows across the landscape. We were the only car for what felt like forever, just the hum of the engine and the soft music on the radio. Suddenly, my wife Sarah gasped and pointed. "Travis, look out." I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the asphalt. A massive animal had just darted out from the side of the road. But this wasn't a deer or an elk. It was huge, way bigger than any coyote I'd ever seen, and it moved with an unnatural speed. It ran on all fours, its body long and emaciated, covered in patchy, dark fur. Before I could fully process what I was seeing, the creature did something impossible. It didn't just run across the road in one fluid, terrifying motion. It leaped. It soared right over the hood of our car, a dark silhouette against the moonlit sky. For a split second, I saw its eyes. They glowed with a faint, malevolent red light. And they weren't the eyes of an animal. They were intelligent. They were full of hate. The creature landed on the other side of the road with a soft thud that we somehow felt more than heard. It didn't stop or look back. It just vanished into the sagebrush and darkness as if it were never there. The car stalled, and we were plunged into complete silence. I sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, my heart pounding in my chest. Sarah was pale, her hand over her mouth. "What was that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know," I said, but a cold dread was creeping up my spine. I knew the local legends, the old stories whispered by the youth elders about things that roamed the desert at night wearing the skins of animals. Skinwalkers. I tried to restart the car, but the engine just sputtered and died. I tried again. Nothing. We were stranded in the middle of nowhere, with that thing lurking somewhere in the darkness around us. The temperature seemed to drop, and the air grew heavy. I locked the doors and told Sarah to stay quiet. Every rustle of the wind in the brush, every distant coyote howl, sent a new wave of fear through me. Then, we heard it, a sound from outside the car, right next to my door. It was a soft scratching sound, like long nails dragging slowly against the metal. Scrape, scrape, scrape. My blood ran cold. I didn't dare to look. Sarah let out a small, terrified sob. The scratching stopped, and then a new sound began. A voice. It was a high-pitched, mocking whisper that seemed to come from all around us. It was mimicking Sarah's voice. "Travis, help me," it whispered, sounding exactly like her, but distorted, stretched, and filled with a chilling amusement. "Let me in, Travis. It's cold out here. Don't listen," I hissed at Sarah, who was now crying silently. "It's not you. It's not real." The voice laughed, a dry, rattling sound that grated on my nerves. "Oh, but it is real, Travis," it whispered, now mimicking my own voice. It was my voice, but hollow, dead. "You saw me. You know what I am. Open the door." Then came the tapping, a gentle tap, tap, tap on the driver's side window. I forced myself to turn my head, just a fraction. Pressed against the glass was a face. But it wasn't a human face, and it wasn't an animal face. It was something in between, gaunt and skeletal, wheat leathery gray, skin stretched tight over its bones. The eyes were sunken into dark sockets, and they burned with that same red light. Its mouth was a lipless slit that twisted into a grotesque smile, revealing long, yellowed teeth. I recoiled, shouting in pure terror. The thing just kept smiling, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. It tapped on the glass again, harder this time. Tap, tap, tap. It was taunting us, enjoying our fear. It knew we were trapped. It knew it had all the time in the world. For what felt like hours, it circled the car. We'd hear its heavy, shuffling footsteps on the gravel. First on my side, 10 Bain Duas. Then on Sarah's side, it would whisper to us, using our own voices, twisting our words, trying to trick us into opening the doors. It would say things we had said to each other earlier that day, private things, things that had no way of knowing. It was like it could read our minds, plucking our deepest fears and using them against us. At one point, it climbed onto the roof of the car. We could hear it walking around up there, its claws scraping against the metal. The whole car shook slightly with its weight. It was heavy, much heavier than it looked. It started pounding on the roof, slow, rhythmic thuds that echoed inside the small space of the car. each one like a hammer blow to my sanity. I was on the verge of breaking. I remember looking at Sarah, her face streaked with tears, and feeling a surge of protective anger. I wasn't going to let this thing get to us. I started praying, yelling out any prayer I could remember from my childhood. I don't know if it helped, but it felt like the only weapon I had. As I was yelling, the pounding on the roof suddenly stopped. The whispering ceased. The shuffling footsteps faded away. An unnerving silence fell over the desert once more. We waited, barely breathing, listening for any sign of its return. Minutes stretched into an eternity. We didn't move. We didn't speak. We just sat there, paralyzed by fear, until the first hint of dawn began to break on the horizon. The gray light of morning slowly crept over the landscape, chasing away the long shadows. The world started to look normal again. The sagebrush was just sagebrush. The rocks were just rocks. As the sun peeked over the mountains, I felt a flicker of hope. I turned the key in the ignition one more time, not really expecting anything. The engine roared to life. I didn't wait. I slammed the car into drive and sped away, not daring to look back. We drove in complete silence. The events of the night were playing in my mind like a waking nightmare. When we finally got home, we stumbled inside and locked the door. We didn't talk about it for days. The next morning, I went out to inspect the car. My hands were shaking. On the driver's side door, there were long, deep scratches in the paint, right where I heard it scraping. And on the roof, there were several large dents, as if something incredibly heavy had been standing up there. But the most chilling thing was on the dusty hood of the car. In the thin layer of desert dust, there was a single, perfect handprint. But it wasn't human. It was too long, too thin, with fingers that ended in what looked like claw marks. We never drive that road at night anymore. Sometimes, when the wind howls a certain way, I can almost hear that whispering voice, mocking me from the darkness. I know what we saw on the western slope. It wasn't a coyote or a bear. It was something ancient, something evil. And it knows our names. It knows our voices, and I have a feeling it's still out there, waiting. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've had a similar encounter or believe in these things, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the dark corners of the world. Stay safe out there. The flickering neon sign of the Starlight Motel was the only thing breaking the suffocating darkness of the Arizona desert. I was on a cross-country road trip, a solo journey to clear my head, and this rundown motel was the only sign of civilization I'd seen in hours. The room was exactly what you'd expect. Worn-out carpet, a lumpy bed, and that distinct smell of old dust and cleaning solution. Exhausted, I tossed my duffel bag on the floor and slumped into the single, threadbare armchair facing the window. The other chair, identical and equally worn, sat empty across the small room, facing me. I must have drifted off, because when my eyes snapped open, the room was colder. A chilling, bone-deep cold that had nothing to do with the ancient air conditioner rattling in the wall. My breath hitched. I wasn't alone anymore. In the chair opposite me, the one that had been empty moments before, sat a figure. It was shrouded in shadow, the faint moonlight from the window barely outlining its form. It was large, hunched over, with long, unnaturally thin limbs. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drum in the dead silence. I couldn't make out a face, just a dark mass where a head should be. I tried to scream, to move, but my body was frozen solid with a primal fear I'd never known. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying it was a hallucination, a trick of my tired mind, just a nightmare. When I dared to open them again, the chair was empty. Relief washed over me, so intense it made me dizzy. I stumbled to my feet, my legs shaking like leaves. I must be more exhausted than I thought. I decided to get some water from the bathroom, splashing my face to wake myself up. My reflection in the cracked mirror looked pale and terrified. As I turned to leave the bathroom, my eyes fell on the empty chair again, and my blood ran cold. On the seat cushion, there was an indentation, a deep, clear impression, as if someone very, very heavy had just been sitting there. My mind rushed ahead. Hallucinations don't leave physical evidence. I backed away, slowly, my gaze fixed on that indentation. Then, I heard it, A soft, dry, scratching sound. It was coming from outside my door. Scratch, scratch. Slow and deliberate. It sounded like long nails dragging against the wood. My breath caught in my throat. I crept towards the door, my heart pounding in my ears. I peered through the peephole, my hand trembling. At first, I saw nothing but the dimly lit motel walkway. Then, something moved in the periphery. A shape, tall and gaunt, was crouched by the door of the room next to mine. It was rhythmically scratching at the door, just like I'd heard. Its back was to me, but I could see its limbs were impossibly long and jointed at odd angles. It was wearing what looked like tattered animal hides. I stumbled back from the door, a strangling gasp escaping my lips. I knew the stories, the old Navajo legends my grandfather used to tell. Tales meant to scare children into behaving. Stories of shamans who twisted nature, who could wear the skins of animals and even other people. Skinwalkers. I had always dismissed them as folklore, campfire tales, but standing here, in this isolated motel room with that scratching sound echoing in the night, the stories felt terrifyingly real. The scratching stopped. Silence descended again, heavy and expectant. I held my breath, straining to hear anything, any sign that the thing was gone. A floorboard creaked inside my room. I whipped my head around so fast, my neck ached. Standing between the bed and the window was the figure. It wasn't a shadow anymore. The faint moonlight illuminated it, and the sight made me want to collapse. It was tall, emaciated. Its skin, a patchwork of what looked like leathery hide and pale human flesh, stretched taut over a skeletal frame. Its arms were long, ending in dirty, claw-like fingers. But the face was the worst part. It was vaguely human, but the features were distorted, stretched into a permanent, horrifying grin. And its eyes, they were not human. They were the predatory, yellow eyes of a coyote, glowing with a malevolent intelligence. It took a step towards me, a strange, disjointed movement, as if it was still learning how to use its stolen limbs. A low sound emanated from its throat, a guttural clicking noise that mimicked human speech but was horribly, grotesquely wrong. It was trying to talk. So cold, it rasped, the voice a dry, airy whisper that sounded like dead leaves skittering across pavement. It took another lurching step. Your skin looks warm. The words hung in the air, a death sentence. My paralysis finally broke. A surge of pure adrenaline shot through me. I didn't think, I just reacted. I grabbed the heavy glass water pitcher from the bedside table and hurled it at the creature. It struck the thing in the chest with a dull thud, but it barely flinched, only tilting its head with a sickening crackle of bone. That split second was all I needed. I bolted. I threw the door open and ran, not even bothering to close it behind me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I sprinted through the empty walkway, the gravel crunching under my bare feet. I could hear it behind me, its movements no longer slow and awkward, but terrifyingly fast. I could hear the scrape of its claws on the concrete, keeping pace with me effortlessly. I fumbled for my car keys in my pocket, my fingers numb and clumsy. I finally got the door open, threw myself inside, and slammed the lock. I jammed the key into the ignition, my hands shaking so violently it took 3 tries. The engine roared to life. As I slammed the car into reverse, its face appeared in my driver's side window. Its grinning, monstrous face was just inches from mine, separated only by a thin pane of glass. Those glowing yellow eyes bore into me, filled with a hunger and a hatred that was ancient and evil. It raised a clawed hand and slammed it against the window. A spider web of cracks erupted across the glass. I stomped on the gas pedal. The tires screeched as I peeled out of the parking spot, sending gravel flying. I didn't slow down. I sped out of the motel parking lot and onto the empty highway, pushing the car as fast as it would go. I drove for hours, my eyes glued to the rearview mirror, expecting to see that loping, horrific figure chasing me down the desolate road. I didn't stop until the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. chasing the last of the shadows away. I never told anyone the full story. Who would believe me? But I know what I saw. Sometimes, when I'm alone in a quiet room, I can still hear it. That dry, scratching sound, and I see those yellow eyes, burning in the darkness. A constant reminder of the night I came face to face with a legend, and barely escaped with my skin. Have you ever had that chilling feeling? The one where the hair on the back of your neck stands up, and you just know something is deeply, fundamentally wrong? I had that feeling last Tuesday, and it saved my life. It was a quiet night, just me and my dog, Buster, curled up on the couch. A storm was brewing outside, the wind howling and rattling the windows. Around 11 p.m., Buster, who's usually a deep sleeper, suddenly shot up. His ears perked, a low growl rumbling in his chest. He was staring intently at the front door. I tried to calm him down, thinking it was just a storm, but he wouldn't settle. He was agitated, pacing back and forth, his growl getting louder, more aggressive. Then I heard it, a faint, hesitant knock at the door. Who would be out in this weather? This late, I cautiously moved to the peephole. My heart hammered against my ribs. Standing on my porch, drenched from the rain, was Mia. It was an exact replica. Same messy bun, same oversized gray sweater I was wearing, same tired expression I probably had on my face. The only difference was a frantic, desperate look in its eyes. I stumbled back from the door, my mind reeling. Was I seeing things? Buster was now barking wildly, throwing himself against the door as if trying to keep something out. The knocking came again, louder this time, more insistent. A voice, my voice, called out, "Hey, it's me." I locked myself out again. "Can you let me in?" I forgot my spare key. The voice was perfect. It had my exact tone, my inflection, my habit of sighing when I'm frustrated. It was so convincing that for a split second, I almost believed it. Maybe I had gone outside for some reason and forgotten. But I was inside. I was right here. And Buster? Buster knew. Animals have a sixth sense for these things, don't they? My hands were shaking as I backed away from the door. I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling to dial my neighbor, Mark. The knocking turned into pounding. "Come on, open up. It's freezing out here. I can see it through the window." I glanced at the living room window, but the blinds were drawn shut. A cold dread washed over me. It couldn't see me. It was guessing. It was trying to trick me. The thing on my porch started to sound angry. "Why are you doing this? Just open the door. I need to get in." Its voice started to change, becoming distorted, stretched, like a recording played at the wrong speed. It was still my voice, but layered with something else, something guttural and ancient. Mark finally picked up. I whispered frantically, "Mark, you need to call the police. There's someone at my door, trying to break in." He must have heard the terror in my voice because he didn't ask questions. He just said, "I'm on it. Stay away from the door." The pounding stopped. An eerie silence fell over the house, broken only by Buster's continuous growling. I held my breath, straining to hear anything over the storm and my own frantic heartbeat. Then, I heard a scratching sound. It was coming from the back of the house, at the kitchen window. I crept towards the kitchen, my phone clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Buster followed close behind, his teeth bared. Peeking around the corner, I saw a long, slender finger, unnaturally pale, prying at the edge of the window frame. The nail was long and yellowed, more like a claw. My blood ran cold. The window lock rattled. He was trying to force it open. I quickly moved back, hiding in the hallway, trying to make myself as small as possible. The scratching and rattling continued for what felt like an eternity. The creature's voice, now a horrifying mimicry of my own, started whispering my name from outside the window. "I know you're in there. You can't hide forever. Let me in. We can be one. We can be whole." The words didn't make sense, but the intent behind them was clear and terrifying. Suddenly, flashing blue and red lights cut through the darkness outside. The police had arrived. The scratching stopped instantly. I heard a strange, scrambling noise from the backyard, like something large and agile moving away at an incredible speed. Then, silence. The police cleared the house and the yard. They found deep, strange gouges on the front door and the kitchen window frame, but no footprints. The storm had washed everything away. They took my statement, but I could see the disbelief in their eyes. A person who looks exactly like you. They probably thought I was hallucinating or just spooked by the storm. I haven't slept properly since that night. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind, makes me jump. Buster refuses to leave my side. I bought new locks, reinforced the windows, and installed security cameras. Sometimes, late at night, I review the footage. There's never anything there, just the wind rustling the trees in my yard. But I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. That thing wasn't human. It was a perfect copy on the outside, but inside, it was something else entirely. Something hungry. I often wonder, what would have happened if I didn't have Buster? What if I had opened that door? Would it have taken my place? Would my friends and family ever have known the difference? I think about the spare key it asked for. I used to keep one under a loose stone by the porch. I threw it into the river the next day. Some doors should never, ever be opened. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe for more unsettling tales. Stay safe out there, and always trust your instincts. The silence of a remote cabin isn't peaceful. It's heavy. It presses in on you, making every creak of the floorboards sound like a footstep. Every rustle of leaves outside sound like a whisper. I'm Nathan, and I learned this the hard way. It was supposed to be a solo retreat, a chance to disconnect from the noise of the city and reconnect with myself in the heart of the Arizona wilderness. The first day was perfect. I hiked, I read, I felt the stress melt away. But as night fell, the silence began to feel watchful. I was getting ready for bed, just brushing my teeth in the small, rustic bathroom. The only light was a single bulb above the mirror, casting long, dancing shadows. I splashed water on my face, and when I looked up, my heart stopped. For a split second, reflected in the mirror over my shoulder, I saw something else. It wasn't a person. It was gaunt, impossibly tall, with eyes that seemed to drink the light. Its face was a distorted parody of a human, stretched and wrong. It was there, and then it was gone. My blood ran cold, a spoon around my heart hammering against my ribs. The bathroom was empty. The door was closed. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a figment of my tired imagination. The long drive, the isolation. It had to be. But the image was seared into my mind. The way its head was tilted, the unnatural length of its neck. It felt ancient and deeply, deeply wrong. Shaken, I quickly finished up and practically ran to the bedroom. I checked the locks on the main door and all the windows. Everything was secure. The cabin was a fortress. I tried to reason with the fear. No one could have gotten in. Primera, Salon. I crawled into bed, pulling the covers up to my chin, trying to force the image from my head. The silence of the cabin was no longer empty. It was filled with the memory of those eyes. I lay there in the dark, my ears straining, listening for any sound. For a long time, there was nothing but the frantic beat of my own heart. I started to relax, my breathing slowing down. Maybe I really did just imagine it. I closed my eyes, desperately trying to find sleep, to escape into oblivion. That's when I heard it. A faint, scratching sound. It was coming from outside, at the base of the cabin wall, right below my bedroom window. Scratch, scratch, pause, scratch. It was rhythmic, deliberate. It wasn't an animal. Animals are random, frantic. This was methodical. My fear returned with a vengeance, cold and sharp. I held my breath, listening. The scratching stopped. A new sound began, a low, guttural humming. It was a sound that vibrated through the floor, a sound that felt older than the trees outside. It wasn't human, and it wasn't any animal I'd ever heard. The humming grew louder, closer. It sounded like it was right outside the window now. I was paralyzed, too scared to move, too scared to even breathe. Then, a soft tap on the window pane. Tap, tap, tap. 3 distinct knocks. My mind screamed at me. Don't look. Whatever you do, don't look. The old tales my grandpa used to tell me. Stories I dismissed as campfire folklore flooded my mind. Stories of things that hunt in the dark, things that can mimic, things that want to get inside. The tapping stopped. The humming faded. The silence that followed was somehow worse. It was a loaded silence, full of anticipation. I lay there for what felt like an eternity. My muscles coiled tight, waiting for the next sound, the next tap, the next sign that the nightmare was real. Nothing. Minutes stretched into an hour. The forest was quiet again. Slowly, cautiously, I began to think maybe it was over. Maybe it had moved on. Then I heard a voice. My own voice. "Nathan," it whispered, from right outside the window. "Let me in. It's cold out here." It was my voice, but not my voice. It was hollow, thin, a cheap imitation played on a broken recorder. Every hair on my body stood on end. It knew my name. It was mimicking me. How? I hadn't spoken a word aloud all night. Nathan had called again, a little louder, a note of impatience in the stolen tone. I forgot my key. Just opened the door. My mind was a whirlwind of terror. This was a skinwalker. It had to be. The reflection in the mirror, the sounds, the voice. It was all adding up to a truth I didn't want to accept. It was toying with me. It was trying to trick me, to lure me into a false sense of security. I didn't answer. I stayed perfectly still, my eyes squeezed shut, praying for sunrise. The voice started to change. It cycled through other voices, a woman's soft plea, a man's stern command, each one begging me to open the door, to let them in. Each voice was slightly off, distorted, like a radio station not quite tuned in. It was a gallery of stolen sounds, a horrifying performance just for me. The impersonations stopped. A new sound started, a key turning in the lock of the front door. Click. My blood turned to ice. I had the only key. It was on the nightstand right next to me. I reached out a trembling hand and felt the cold metal. The key was here. So, what was that sound? Click. The lock turned again. Click. The deadbolt slid back. I heard the front door creak open. Heavier, deliberate footsteps echoed on the wooden floor of the main room. Thump, thump, thump. They were slow, confident. It was inside. It was inside the cabin with me, my breath hitched in my throat. I was trapped. The bedroom door was my only barrier, and it felt as thin as paper. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. The silence stretched, thick with menace. Then, the doorknob began to turn. Slowly, jiggling, rattling, as if an unfamiliar hand was fumbling with the mechanism. I couldn't scream. The sound was trapped in my throat. I scrambled out of bed, backing away until my back hit the cold wall on the far side of the room. I stared at the door, watching the brass knob twist back and forth. It was going to get in. And then, it stopped. The knob ceased its turning. The footsteps retreated, moving away from the door, back through the main room. I heard the front door creak shut. I heard the lock turn. Silence. Complete and utter silence. It was gone. Why? Why would it go through all that? Get inside, and 10 hoosts. Leave. I stayed pressed against that wall until the first gray light of dawn crept through the window. I didn't sleep. Host waited. When the sun was fully up, I crept out of the bedroom. The cabin was empty. The front door was locked, dead-bolted from the inside, exactly as I had left it. There was no sign of entry, no footprints, nothing out of place. Except for one thing on the bathroom mirror. Drawn in the condensation was a single, sprawling handprint. It was long, with fingers that were far too thin and ended in points that looked more like claws. It was a handprint that wasn't human. I packed my things and left that cabin without looking back. I never went back to the wilderness alone. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I think I hear a faint scratching at my window. And I wonder if it just left, or if it's just waiting. Thanks for listening. If you have a story you want to share, send it my way. And don't forget to subscribe for more Tales from the Dark. Stay safe out there. My friends always said my obsession with solo hiking in the Rocky Mountains would get me into trouble one day. I'd just laugh it off. The solitude, the raw, untamed beauty. It was my church. But last fall, on a trail I'd hiked a dozen times, I found out just how right they were. It wasn't the terrain or the weather that proved dangerous. It was something else entirely. Something that watched me from the tree line. Something ancient and malevolent. It started subtly. I was about 6 miles in, deep into a section of the trail flanked by dense pine forests and jagged rock faces. The air, usually filled with the chirps of birds and the rustle of unseen critters, fell completely silent. It wasn't a peaceful quiet. It was a heavy, expectant silence, the kind that precedes a storm. An unnatural stillness settled over the landscape, and the hairs on my arms stood on end. I stopped, scanning the trees, telling myself it was just a bear or a mountain lion nearby, causing the smaller animals to go quiet. But the feeling in my gut was different. It felt like I was being hunted. I tried to shake it off, picking up my pace. That's when I heard it. A twig snapped to my left, just inside the forest. It was loud, too deliberate for a deer. I froze, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small and weak in the vast wilderness. No answer. Just that suffocating silence again. I kept walking, my eyes darting nervously into the shadows between the trees. Then, another sound, a low whistle, mimicking a bird call I'd never heard before. It was off-key, distorted, and it seemed to follow me as I moved. Panic began to set in. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I knew that was the worst thing you could do if a predator was stalking you. I forced myself to walk calmly, my hand gripping the can of bear spray on my belt. The whistling continued, sometimes from my left, sometimes from my right, as if whatever was making it was circling me with impossible speed. I caught a flicker of movement in my peripheral vision, a dark shape darting between trees. It was Lark, but moved with a fluid grace that wasn't animal-like. I risked a glance over my shoulder. Nothing. But the feeling of being watched was so intense it was almost a physical pressure on my back. I started to jog, abandoning all pretense of calm. The forest floor was a blur of pine needles and roots beneath my feet. The whistling stopped, replaced by something far more terrifying. The sound of heavy bipedal footsteps crunching on the dry leaves, keeping pace with me just out of sight. It wasn't an animal. It was running on 2 legs. My lungs burned. Adrenaline surged through me. I had to get to the open ridge ahead, out of the claustrophobic confines of the forest. As I burst out of the tree line and onto the rocky clearing, I chanced another look back, and that's when I saw it. For a split second, standing at the edge of the woods, was a figure. It was tall and gaunt, its limbs unnaturally long and thin. Its skin looked like stretched, leathery hide, and its eyes seemed to glow with a faint, predatory light, even in the midday sun. It wasn't human. It wasn't an animal. It was something in between, a nightmare-given form. I didn't scream. The sound was trapped in my throat. Just run. I scrambled up the rocky incline of the trail, my boots slipping on loose gravel. I didn't dare look back again, but I could hear it following. It wasn't running anymore. It was climbing, its movements accompanied by the chilling sound of claws scraping against rock. The sounds were impossibly fast, closing the distance between us with terrifying speed. I knew I couldn't outrun it. This was it. My mind was a whirlwind of terror and regret. I reached a small plateau on the trail, a wide open space with a clear view of the valley below and the trail I'd just ascended. My legs gave out, and I collapsed, turning to face my pursuer, my hand fumbling for the bear spray I knew would be useless. I scanned the trail below, expecting to see that horrifying creature bounding up towards me. But there was nothing. The trail was empty. The scraping sounds had stopped. For a moment, a wave of confusing relief washed over me. Had I imagined it all? Was it just a panic attack, fueled by the isolation? I slowly got to my feet, my body trembling. I looked across the valley, toward the opposite ridge, maybe a few hundred yards away, and my blood ran cold. There, standing on a distant rocky outcrop, was a man. He was just a silhouette against the sky, but I could tell he was wearing hiking gear, similar to mine. He was completely still, just standing there, looking directly at me. It was strange, but not immediately threatening. Maybe another hiker who had heard my frantic dash. I raised a hand in a hesitant wave. The figure didn't wave back. Instead, it did something that defied all logic, something that will be burned into my memory until the day I die. It began to change. Its silhouette warped and twisted. Its shoulders hunched, its spine contorted and elongated. The shape of a human head melted away, replaced by a longer, canine-like snout. Its arms bent backwards at grotesque angles, thinning into spindly forelegs, while its lower body thickened and grew shaggy. In the span of a few seconds, the human figure was gone. In its place stood a creature that looked like a grotesque, oversized coyote, its form gaunt and skeletal. I was paralyzed, watching this impossibility unfold from a distance. The creature then lowered itself onto all fours. It took one last look in my direction, a look I could feel even across the vast expanse of the valley, a look of ancient intelligence and pure malice. Then it turned and ran. It moved with a terrifying, unnatural speed, bounding over rocks and gullies with an agility that no normal animal possessed. Within seconds, it had disappeared over the crest of the distant ridge, leaving me alone in the deafening silence of the mountains. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in disbelief and horror. The sun began to dip below the peaks, casting long, menacing shadows across the valley. That snapped me out of it. I had to get off this mountain. I ran the entire way back to my car, not stopping, not looking back, my mind replaying the impossible transformation I had witnessed. I've never been back to that trail. I haven't been hiking since. My friends think I just got spooked by a bear, that I let my imagination get the better of me. I'll let them believe it. How could I explain what I saw? How could I tell them that I watched a man shed his form and become something else? I know what I saw on that distant ridge. I saw a skinwalker, and I know it saw me. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind howls outside, I swear I can hear a faint, distorted whistle carried on the breeze. And I wonder if it's just remembering the hiker that got away. The old farmhouse my grandfather left me was a time capsule. Dust motes danced in the sunbeams that pierced through grimy windows, illuminating forgotten furniture draped in white sheets. It was a fixer-upper, a project, but it was mine. The first few weeks were a blur of cleaning, painting, and exploring. That's when I found the basement. The door, heavy and wooden, was tucked away in a pantry I'd almost overlooked. It creaked open to reveal a steep set of rickety stairs, descending into cool, musty darkness. Down there, amidst cobwebs and forgotten junk, stood a single object that seemed out of place. A massive, old-fashioned chest freezer. It was a hulking metal box, its white enamel chipped and rusted at the edges. It wasn't plugged in. Of course, my curiosity got the better of me. I braced myself for the smell of decay, expecting to find forgotten meat from decades ago. But when I lifted the heavy lid, it was empty, spotlessly clean. Even, it was just a freezer. I closed the lid, a bit disappointed, and turned to head back upstairs. That's when I first saw it. The freezer's polished metal door acted like a distorted mirror. As I turned, my reflection did too, but it was slow. It lagged a fraction of a second behind my actual movement. I stopped, my heart suddenly thumping. I raised my hand. My real hand went up instantly. In the reflection, the hand rose a beat later. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. I told myself it was a trick of the light, the curved surface of the freezer, the strange shadows of the basement. I shook my head, left it off as my imagination running wild, and hurried back up into the warm, sunlit house. But I couldn't forget it. Over the next few days, I found myself drawn back to the basement, back to the freezer. Each time, it was the same. I'd move, and my reflection would follow, always a step behind. The lag was so consistent, so deliberate. It wasn't a glitch in physics. It felt intentional. It felt like I was watching a recording of myself from a second ago. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe the metal had some weird property, or maybe the isolation of the farmhouse was finally getting to me. The nights were the worst. The house, which had felt cozy and nostalgic, now seemed vast and filled with creaks and groans I hadn't noticed before. I started hearing noises from the basement, a soft scratching sound, like fingernails on metal. At first, I blamed it on rats. But the sound was rhythmic, patient. Scratch. Pause. Scratch. I'd lie in bed, eyes wide open listening to it. My blood running cold. I barricaded the basement door with a heavy armchair, but the sound still bled through the floorboards. A constant, unnerving reminder of the thing downstairs. One night, the scratching was louder, more frantic. It was accompanied by a low, guttural humming. It wasn't a human sound, nor was it any animal I'd ever heard. It was a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to make the very air in the house tremble. Sleep was impossible. I grabbed a heavy iron poker from the fireplace and crept down the hall. Standing outside the pantry, I could hear the humming clearly now, punctuated by the sharp scrape of claws on metal. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. I flung the door open. The armchair I'd placed there was pushed aside, a deep gouge torn into its fabric. The basement door was ajar. The humming had stopped. The silence that followed was somehow more terrifying. My grandfather had always been a practical man, not one for tall tales. But I remembered him once, late at night, talking about the old lands, about things that walked in the dark. He'd spoken of protectors and deceivers, beings that could wear the skins of others. Skinwalkers. He'd warned me, his voice low and serious. They mimic you. They learn you. They get close by, looking like something you trust. My own reflection. Lagging. Learning. The thought hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just a reflection. It was something else, watching me, studying my every move from within that metallic prison. The lag wasn't a delay. It was a process of observation. It was learning how to be me. Driven by a surge of adrenaline and terror, I descended the stairs, poker held out in front of me like a sword. The basement was still. The freezer stood silent. Its door was slightly ajar. A deep, unnatural cold emanated from the gap. I crept closer, my breath held tight in my chest. With the tip of the poker, I pushed the freezer door fully open. It wasn't empty anymore. Lying curled inside, impossibly folded into the small space, was something that looked almost like me. It was pale, its limbs too long, its joints bent at unnatural angles. Its eyes were closed, but its face was a grotesque, unfinished copy of my own. It looked like a clay sculpture that had been hastily molded and left to dry. Its skin was waxy and translucent, and beneath it, I could see muscles and tendons twitching faintly, as if it were dreaming. And the smell, it wasn't rot. It was the smell of damp earth and ozone, like the air after a lightning strike. As I stared, horrified, its eyes snapped open. They weren't my eyes. They were completely black, devoid of iris or pupil, like polished stones. And they were fixed on me. It didn't move, but a voice echoed in my head, a voice that was almost my own, but distorted, layered, as if spoken by a choir of whispers. Almost ready, it rasped, not with its mouth, but directly into my mind. I didn't scream. The sound was trapped in my throat. I slammed the heavy lid shut. The thing inside didn't struggle, but I heard the voice in my head again, a sound of dry, rustling laughter. I fumbled for the freezer's latch, but there was none. There was no way to lock it. I stumbled backward up the stairs, slamming the basement door, dragging the ruined armchair back in front of it. I ran out of the house and didn't stop until I reached my car. I drove 4 hours, not looking back. The image of that thing in the freezer burned into my mind, the sound of its mental laughter echoing in my ears. I never went back to the farmhouse. I sold the land, the house, everything, for a pittance to a development company, warning them to demolish the house and fill in the basement. I don't know if they listened. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, covered in a cold sweat, convinced I can hear faint scratching coming from my closet. I catch myself avoiding mirrors now. I'm terrified that one day I'll look into one and see my own reflection, and I'll watch it lag, just for a fraction of a second. I live with the constant, gnawing fear that the thing from the freezer isn't just waiting anymore, that it finished learning, and now it's out, looking for the skin it was practicing to wear. My skin. The flickering fluorescent light above my cubicle was the only thing breaking the dead silence of the office at 2 a.m. Working the night shift at a sprawling tech campus on the outskirts of Phoenix had its perks, namely solitude. But tonight, that solitude felt heavy. It all started with a sound, a faint, rhythmic tapping coming from the far end of the floor, near the server room. I chalked it up to the old building settling, or maybe the air conditioning kicking in. I tried to focus on the lines of code blurring on my screen, but the tapping grew louder, more deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, it sounded organic, like a fingernail on glass. I pushed my chair back, the wheels squeaking in the oppressive quiet. "Hello," I called out, my voice sounding small and fragile in the vast, empty space. The tapping stopped. Silence flooded back in, thicker than before. My heart hammered against my ribs. I told myself it was just my imagination, fueled by too much caffeine and not enough sleep. I decided to get some coffee from the break room, needing an excuse to move, to prove to myself that everything was normal. The journey there felt like walking through a different world. The familiar, cheerful office posters seemed sinister in the dim light, the ergonomic chairs like hunched figures in the dark. As I passed the large, floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the desert landscape, a movement outside caught my eye. I stopped, peering into the inky blackness. For a second I thought I saw a shape tall, unnaturally thin loping across the parking lot. It moved with a jerky, disjointed gait that made the hair on my arms stand up. I blinked, and it was gone. Just a trick of the light. Primetta told myself, my hand shaking as I reached for the break room door. The coffee machine gurgled to life, a comforting, domestic sound in the unnerving quiet. As the coffee brewed, I leaned against the counter, trying to regulate my breathing. That's when I heard it again, not tapping this time. A voice. It was a whisper, seeming to come from right behind me. It was my Nami. He spooned around my coffee mug, clattering to the floor. The break room was empty. My pulse was a frantic drum in my ears. The whisper hadn't been in my head. It was real, raspy, and guttural. It sounded like someone was trying to imitate my name but couldn't quite get the vowels right. I backed out of the break room, my eyes scanning the rows of darkened cubicles. A new sound joined the symphony of my own panicked Bradingasov, wet, dragging noise. It was coming from the direction of the CEO's corner office, the one with the old glass walls. I slowly crept toward it, my rational mind screaming at me to run, to get out, but a morbid curiosity held me captive. As I got closer, the smell hit me. It was coppery and foul, the scent of something wild and unclean. I peeked around the corner. The dragging sound was louder now, and it was inside the glass office. Through the dim reflection on the glass, I saw a shape. It was crouched in the corner, eats buck to me. It was dark and lanky, its limbs bent at impossible angles. It was rhythmically pulling at something on the floor, its movements jerky and unnatural. It was wearing a security guard's uniform. It was the uniform of Dave, the night guard who was supposed to be patrolling the building. But this thing was not Dave. Its proportions were all wrong. The arms were too long, the shoulders too broad for the straining fabric. Then it stopped. It slowly, deliberately began to stand. The crunching sound of its joints popping and resetting echoed in the silence. It turned its head, a full 180 degrees, its neck cracking with the movement. Its face was a grotesque parody of a human. The eyes were too wide, black and soulless, and the mouth was stretched into a gaping, unnatural smile. It wasn't Dave's face, but it was wearing his skin, stretched taut and thin over a frame that wasn't meant for it. It stared right at me, its head tilted. It opened its mouth, and a sound came out, not a human sound, but a chittering, clicking noise, like 1,000 insects, and then it whispered my name again. This time in Dave's voice, a perfect imitation. Panic finally took over. I didn't scream. The sound was trapped in my throat. I just turned and ran. I sprinted through the maze of cubicles, knocking over chairs. My only thought to get to the main lobby and out the front doors. Behind me, I heard a crash as the glass wall of the CEO's office shattered. A series of heavy, thudding footsteps followed, impossibly fast. It was chasing me. I didn't dare look back. I could hear its guttural breathing getting closer, punctuated by those awful clicks. I burst into the main lobby. The automatic glass doors were my salvation. Just 20 feet away, I fumbled for my keycard, my fingers slick with sweat. As I swiped the card, the lock beeped and clicked open, just as I threw myself at the doors. I heard a voice right behind my ear, a perfect imitation of my own. "Where are you going?" it whispered. I scrambled through the doors and into the night, not stopping to see if they closed behind me. I ran across the parking lot, the dry desert air burning my lungs. I glanced back once. The thing was standing in the doorway, a tall, distorted silhouette against the office lights. It didn't follow. It just stood there, watching me, its head tilted in that curious, predatory way. I got to my car, my hands shaking so badly it took 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. I peeled out of the parking lot, flooring the accelerator and never looking back. I drove until the sun came up, putting as many miles as I could between me and that office. I quit my job that morning. I never went back to Phoenix. Sometimes, late at night, when it's too quiet, I can still hear it. That tapping and a whisper in a voice that sounds almost like my own.